Hi, I'm Eva.
And I'm Sarah, and we are from the Naperville Public Library.
Today we will be talking about altered book techniques.
This is a project you can do at home on your own, or you can sign up for our library program using the link in the description, and we will provide you with a kit of materials and some instructions.
Let's talk about what altered books are. So let's first talk about what a book is and how you interact with it. You have a book and you're reading it, you flip the pages, you are imagining what you're reading and bringing it to life in your mind, and you're creating your own understanding of what that world looks like. I'm sure you've talked to someone who has one idea of what a character looks like, and it's completely different from yours. But the idea is that books are something that don't really work without us. And the cool thing with altered book techniques is you're taking that interaction and you make it physical by actually changing the book itself. That's a very complicated way of saying that you get to have fun cutting up old books, though. And you get to give new life and new love and new home, new purpose to books that maybe would have gotten thrown away otherwise. So, in its simplest form, altered books are a form of mixed media artwork that change a book from its original form into a different form, and that can change its appearance and or its meaning. So if you glue something in, if you cut it up, that'll change how it looks. But you can also end up changing the meaning of what's written on the page when you cover things up and create, I'll just tell you, create, for example, found in blackout poetry. That's the first of the couple techniques we want to highlight. Blackout poetry is when you cover up words on a page to find new meaning from it. So, for instance, on the left there, the example, women of happiness rule the soil. Okay, that's entirely different from the original meaning of the page because the creator of this found words that she wanted to use and connected them together, creating something completely different from what was originally there. The chapter is called The Prison Door. Not about whatever she's thinking of here. Found poetry, and you can see an example on the right by the tree there, is when you take words you found somewhere else. So you find magazine pages or words from another book page. Perhaps you cut out those words and you rearrange them and bring them together from different places to create your own particular meaning. Poetry in this sense is kind of vague. It doesn't have to be rhyming or anything fantastic. The idea is you're creating your own meaning.
A couple other techniques to share. We can collage in your altered book. I think we've all collaged before in our school lives. So obviously you just cut out pictures and paste them into your book. Altered images are very similar in that you can collect a few different images and combine them together in your book, or you can take an image like the one on the right where the gentleman has the parrot on his hand, and you can color in certain aspects in different colors.
Painting and drawing is one way to work in the book. On the right is an example where they use paint to create their blackout poetry. But as you can see, you use it in a lot of different ways to create your own scenes and your own images. It's really fun to see the texture of the text behind it and sort of work with that or completely cover it up.
Window cutting is when you cut shapes out of a page and you create depth in your book. So the simplest form of that is sort of creating a frame for a photo, like you see in the middle picture there with the woman fishing. A more complicated version is definitely the image on the right here with multiple waves. That takes a lot of different pages to cut and layer to create that effect. But the cool thing about it is that it changes as you flip through the page very dynamically.
So cool. Book folding is a whole type of its own of altered book. It is a process where you carefully cut and fold pages in order to create something 3D and sculptural out of your book. It does usually take the whole book, though, or at least a large portion of it. So we wanted to mention it as a technique for altered books and definitely something you can try, but it might not be the best way to experiment and learn lots of new techniques.
Pop-ups are a technique that we've seen some interest in the past, and some people have done some really cool pop-ups. So we wanted to be sure to integrate them into our instructions. And they are just what they sound like. They are shapes that pop up from the pages as you open the book. It's just sort of like making a pop-up greeting card, really, but inside the pages of your book. Similar to pop-ups are other 3D elements. Pop-ups are very 3D in that they create 3D shapes as you open the page. Some other ways of adding 3D shapes and elements to your book might be to add envelopes or zippers or even scrap fabric you have laying around your house. You can also sew in your book to create different textures on the page. Really, anything that you can think of to add into your book, you should feel free to do so. Image transfers are really fun. They're a good way of making transparent images from mostly magazine pages are the easiest because they are the right consistency of paper. But you can even do like home photos like you see in the candle in the middle there. And they make fun GIFs even if you're not putting them in your altered books. But if you do want to put them in your altered books, you can sometimes get the text from the book page to show through, and that creates like a fun texture on the page without maybe losing the meaning of the book if you want to preserve that. These screenshots are taken from Creative Bug, which we'll get to in a minute, but the simple process is that basically you tape over an image and you rub the tape into the image to make sure that the ink is adhering to the tape, and then you just trim it, put it in some warm water until the paper backing is ready to be rubbed off. You rub it off and you have a clear image. Obviously, those are not very specific instructions. We will have more instructions included in our packet if you register. And also you can find more instruction on Creative Bug.
Let me sell you on these image transfers really quickly. I feel like you might not know exactly what to do with them. And so these are two ideas. One is to use your image transfer as a window. If you put tape on the other side, in case it's sticky on the other side still, you end up with a completely transparent image. And if you've cut something out, you can layer it in between and suddenly you can see through to the next page, but with an intermediary with that image in between. And you can see an example. It's basically water, is an ocean photo, I believe, that they've put over a whole page, and they end up with this really beautiful texture that brings a lot of life to the page. These are just two ideas because I want you to try these. Now we can talk about
Creative Bug. Creative Bug is a database that the library subscribes to. If you have a Naperville Public Library card, you can access Creative Bug. And a really fun and exciting and very important thing that you can access on Creative Bug is the Altered Book Daily Challenge page. And this is a series of videos they made just covering different techniques. So if you need more in-depth instructions on any of these, please go to Creative Bug. You can get to Creative Bug by going to our website, www.naperville-lib.org, and you will go to Resources and Services, and then select Research and Learning from the drop-down menu. It will pull up a list of all of our databases alphabetically. If you go to C, you will find the Creative Bug link. Once you click that, you'll be taken to this page where you can either create an account, or if you already have one, you can just log in. And Creative Bug has a lot more things than just altered book related crafts. It has a ton of stuff, and it's all very exciting and very informative. So you can do art or sewing or jewelry making or holiday crafts. There's even a section for kid-related crafts. So if you're all still stuck at home right now, feel free to do some kid crafts.
These are just a few of the many videos and series available on Creative Bug. These are ones that might be useful for you while you're making your altered books or as you explore other things. The meditative art journaling, for example, is really nice, and the image transfers helps you learn other ways to do image transfers, because while ours may be one of the easiest to do with whatever you have around the house, there's a lot of different ways to do image transfers. So let's talk about examples and how to get inspired to make your book. I want to take a step back and talk about artist books because they're inspiring, not because you're going to necessarily make one, especially not on your first try. Artist books is sort of the larger umbrella that a lot of altered books fall under. Artist books are often crazy, complicated, and gorgeous creations by professional artists. And there's great collections at all kinds of different museums and libraries. You might not have ever heard of them, but I bet you would love looking at them. So these are just a few examples here. The Smithsonian libraries do have their own collection, and they talk about how they are works of art in book form. But one thing to do when you're looking for inspiration is to look up artists' books and look at some of the crazy things that other people have tried or done and see what you can find. Lots of libraries and museums have their own artist book collection, believe it or not, including the Smithsonian libraries, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and lots of other places. One of the most famous artist books, and one you may have seen, is A Humament, a treated Victorian novel by Tom Phillips. So this one was actually created into a trade book that you could buy at Barnes and Noble and other chains, which is crazy because that's very unusual for these things to be duplicated and made available to the public. Basically, Tom Phillips found an old book, A Human Document by W.H. Malik, in a store, and he challenged himself to create something new out of it. So the title comes from A Human Document. He's taken some letters out. And this is an example from his website where you can see the way the page started, and then one edition of it and another edition of it. Because he did, I believe, 7 editions. So he spent most of his life working with this one book and finding endless inspiration, which I think is a great way to think about as you approach your own book, because there's so many different ways you can do it and none of them are wrong. So let's talk about some other examples and break them down for what exactly you can do on your own.
Here we have another example where they painted the pages yellow and they took some sunflower images and made them into image transfers. So you can kind of see the text peeking in behind them there. They also added some collage elements with the make more happen words and also the woman on the page. And then they took some washi tape and put it around the edges to really create some extra dimension.
Super interesting page, lots of techniques. This one also incorporates lots of techniques. You can see that the balloons are an image transfer. There's a little bridge of paper in between the 2 pages. There's some blackout poetry. There's some collage with the little circles made out of book paper and the very cute giraffe. And the result is a super fun page.
This page, you can see that they added a 3D element of the envelope there. Just kind of fun because it's like a mystery on the page. You always want to just open it and find out what's in there. They also collaged some strips of paper and an image on the other side and did a little bit of blackout poetry as well.
This example uses blackout poetry but with paint and takes some inspiration from the text on the page. So you might be able to read one of the lines there is the molecules that hold her together split apart. So you can see they've sort of recreated the molecules splitting and floating away.
This page is just collage, but it's a bunch of different images taken from random materials they had, and it's kind of whimsical and dreamlike.
This page is actually a set of 2 different spreads of pages that uses window cutting. So you can see on the left there is a cutout underneath the safe person, the chapter title. You can see through to the next page. And when you turn the page, you can actually see the hearts on the left that were previously there. So you sort of get to incorporate elements of different pages on each into each other, if that makes sense. And that is an image transfer. As you can see, there's a little bit of the text showing through, which is fun.
This is another window cutting technique. On the right, actually, you can see the images that they've pasted into the book. And on the left, you can see where the eyes are showing through from the moss on the previous page. It's just a fun thing to see elements from another page onto the current page.
And when you turn the pages as you're approaching it, I think you see more and more moth eyes as you approach, right?
Yes.
Super cool. This page incorporates some collage as well as a pop-up little folded bridge that was made out of paper there. And it's really cool because it extends the image as if it has grown across the page.
This is another mostly collage page. You can take letters from different texts and collage them together. So it looks like that's what they did here with Hey Friend. And they also weren't afraid to go off the edge of their page to utilize the bird there.
Super cute. This page has lots of different examples. You see there's a pop-up example. Here's some collaged hearts. You can see an example on the bottom left there where there is a window cutting as well as all kinds of fun description. And on the bottom right, we see some blackout poetry and then a drawing to accompany that and to illustrate what they found from their blackout poetry. This example is from an artist. His name is Will Ashford, and he does a lot of artist books and altered books. And it's really cool to see because he has circled every letter I on the page inside little raindrops and created an illustrated image for us here. And then circled at the bottom, I like the story as well when you told it. So it's reinventing, reimagining the original text, creating something out of the text. And Will Ashford actually shares his methodology online. And so I thought I'd highlight that for you here. He talks about revealing and covering words. And I think that while you may not be using colored vellums, you can still be revealing and covering words to create new meaning that may change as you turn the pages, and do the same with your images. That's the same thing with the images, which are added and subtracted, meaning you might collage elements together, but you might also decide that man who had the parrot on his shoulder in one of the earlier examples, you don't want the parrot. Cut the parrot off. So you're creating your own new images. And the last thing that I really like that he highlights is that you can create words and found poetry or blackout poetry out of individual letters. If you would like to, you can do anything you want to. But I think that that's one of those examples of something we might not think of naturally. So in this example that he has there, he circled the letters to spell out the word art all over this page.
You can find more projects and more examples for more inspiration on Creative Bug. At Creative Bug, they let people post images that they have created. And so you can really just take a look and see what other people are up to.
I took this screenshot a few months ago, and already there's so many new examples. So you could even share your own. The last thing I wanted to highlight is some structure, because there's lots of ways to approach this. And so I like to challenge myself, to give myself a specific goal when I approach my book and decide I'm going to work on it. One of those is to just do a new technique or a style. So I, for instance, spent a lot of time challenging myself to try window cutting. The other thing you can try is challenging yourself to create multiple pages with the same theme or story. So deciding that you're not just going to make one page, you're going to sort of stretch yourself and try to tell a little bit of a story. Depicting is another thing that I think is a good challenge to give yourself, because there's so many different things you can talk about in your book or you could try to express in your book. So deciding you're going to sit down and capture one specific thing makes it a little easier. So in this case, I suggest describe your day, capture your day. So maybe you had a great day and it's all yellow and you put little birds and butterflies and, a happy poem, or maybe it wasn't so great and you can find ways to express that as well. Restricting is the last thing I suggest, and that's where you give yourself limitations, because like the challenge, sometimes you just need limitations. So maybe that's not going to be your topic, but maybe it's going to be the materials you let yourself use. Maybe you say to yourself, I have this stack of old mail I need to get rid of. I'm going to make a page using only, this and some paint or something. Giving yourself that kind of restriction, or saying I'm only going to make a black and white page, for instance, can help you narrow it down, because then you can find a couple pictures that are black and white and suddenly you're in business. So I hope that you try these challenges and create some new ones for yourself as you begin your altered book journey. And the last thing is that it can be a little intimidating to start an altered book or to try this, especially because it's sort of artwork, but you can do it.
Yeah, we really want to encourage you to not take yourself too seriously while creating an altered book or learning new techniques, because like Bob Ross says, we don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents. So really, we just want you to have that mentality going in of sort of just, it's play and it's fun versus it's something you absolutely must show everyone and have on your coffee table or whatever. It can just be for you, and it can be a fun learning experience.
Exactly. So just experiment with it. Try to express whatever it is you're feeling or how your day is, like I suggested, and have fun with it, because everyone we've talked to who's done this has had a lot of fun with it. So give yourself that opportunity to relax and have some fun, and don't put too much pressure on yourself.
That covers everything we wanted to share with you today. We hope that you think about starting an Altered Books project, and we hope you enjoyed our video. Until next time, bye-bye.
Goodbye.